Sara, are you team okra or not team okra?
I am team fried okra, charred okra, cooked okra. I can't stand pickled okra though.
All right, so we learned last week you can't stand, well, I wouldn't say can't stand ice cream, but you're not team ice cream. And now
Not team ice cream.
Now you're not team okra. So we're on the other side on this one too. I like that jar of the pickled okra. I will polish those things off. The spicy okra too. Any type of okra I'm game for.
I love all okra. Have you ever like at the bottom of the jar of the pickled okra, have you ever like kind of turned it up? It's like a layer of like gelatinous next time, but maybe don't because it might ruin it for you. It's pretty rough though. Pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't want to learn that like Jeff Daniels was like the 15th person to do to audition for Dumb and Dumber. I'd like to know. I like to keep that secret. I don't like to know. I just want it to be that it was Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. Like some secrets are better left not known.
Well, I never knew that, but now I do. So.
This is Peck and Eyes. I'm Tom Haberstroh.
I'm Sara Bradley.
Sara, this episode is really cool because I was there. I got to go to Southern Side's episode at Fine and Fennel. I got to see Tristan Epps-Long and the Colliers and Kristen and Tom and Gail. It was the first time that I had seen them in my city of Charlotte, and it was really cool, Sara.
I like kept seeing you in the background. You were kind of sitting. I saw you at a table, and you told me you had gone, and so I was like looking for you. But you were pretty front and center. The back of your head was pretty front and center.
The back of my head was pretty front and center. Okay, I'm really excited about that. I made a really rookie move, Sara. So I'll just give you the backstory. Bravo reached out, or the folks at Top Chef reached out and said, "Hey, we're looking for guests at this challenge, and there's a media table. There's like some media folks, and we were wondering if you'd like to join the media table." And so it was like 8 of us from the New York Times, from Axios Charlotte, Local Palette, Eater Carolinas was there. And it was a really fun table of journalists, right? Writers, et cetera. And when we walk in, they shuttle you in, right? You have to sign all the NDAs and all that fun stuff, all the paperwork. You get in and you sit down at whatever seat you would like. I don't know why I did this. I sat at the worst possible table, or the worst possible seat at the table, because I would have my back to the judges, and I couldn't see the judges' table. You kind of have a feeling what the judges' table is in the room. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I did it, because then I couldn't see all the action behind me. And the one thing they say, Sara, I don't know if when you've been on the show, they're like, don't turn around and look at the judges the whole time.
I don't know. I've never been on your side of it. I've never sat in the dining room.
The other dining room,
yeah.
They're not like they're trying not to constantly turn around and look at Gail and you and Tom and Kristen the whole time, because that's what we all want to do, is just stare at you guys.
Question.
See what's going on.
Do you all get one dish, or were you guys like sharing dishes at the table?
We got all of the dishes.
You all got individually one dish?
We had 3 for the 8-person table, so 3 dishes per round,
nice.
Per dish.
Okay.
And so we got to taste all of the dishes, and I won't spoil it, but the worst dish that we ate was the winning dish.
Really?
Yeah.
Like collectively, you guys all thought?
We'll get to it, but it was so funny watching this episode after being there and having the experience of eating the food and taking the notes. The other thing that was interesting is we got the menu, but we didn't know who made each dish, right? So we had, this is a hop and Juan, this is a potato salad, a la da-da-da, but we didn't have the names attached. And of course, we don't know who these people are at this point, right? Because we're not watching the show. We're just meeting them for the first time. And then secondly, even if I did see the people, I wouldn't know who they were, because it's the chefs. I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, that's Brandon, It's weird to think about it that way, but you're not, I don't know who Brandon is yet at this point. And so if I see him walk out, it's not like, oh, there's Brandon or there's Seeger.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting part. You always ask, like, do I want to go first? Do I want to go last? So the first team to go up, and we don't have to go crazy on this, but let's just say everybody was serving all the time, right? So they were all putting out dishes all the time. Yeah. Because like you were probably eating, like you might have been eating Seeger's dish when someone else was at the judges table. Because so everybody was cooking and putting out food the whole time. If you were the first group to have to go to the judges table, you had to put your first plate of food up and go. But if you were the last group, you would have gone through 4 or 5 other groups before they finally got to you. So going last would have been a huge advantage, or just going later on would have been a huge advantage. Just not going first. That was the worst spot.
So your point is that Seeger was was the last group to go up to the judges table. Yep. And so he had the benefit of being able to cook a bunch of dishes and know how to get the perfect dish for the judges.
Yep. You might have had his dish first. I don't know. But by the time they got around to there, he had plated that dish over and over again. He'd really worked out the seasoning. He'd probably tried a couple and been like, I need this much crispiness for this much, chewiness or whatever it was. But that was a total advantage.
Well, there's so much to get into on this episode, but one thing I want to do before we go is talk about your visit last week to Charlotte, because this was super fun. Because not only did we go to Supperland, but we also went to a Top Chef event afterwards.
Yeah.
After we taped, we went over to Sala, which is Stagione's kind of sister cocktail bar next door to Stagione, which is Brittany Cochran's restaurant where she's the executive chef. And we got to kind of hang out for a bit with the chefs. So Seeger was there, Nana was there, and Brittany was there. And we got to eat their food. We got to have some cocktails, and it was a really fun time. And I want to give a shout out to them for doing this, because it was kind of, we found out about it like a few days before you were flying out to Charlotte. So what a nice surprise.
Yeah. I mean, props to your wife. She's like, this thing popped up in my email, and she got on there and got tickets right away. So it was fun. It was great. It was nice to get to see them all chilling and hanging out. You could tell that they were all just loving it and living in the moment. It is a little interesting because that, spoiler, Brittany goes home, Seeger wins. But it was, now I look back and I see okay, there was Nana who went home, Brittany who went home, Seeger who won. So they definitely, that was a curated little group. They were we're all going to be big on this show in the next 2 weeks. Let's throw a little party. So
yeah, and we didn't know that. We didn't know that when we hung out with them. Yeah,
I think we liked Nana's dish the best. She had a crab cake with a yellow onion, a onion yassa, and then we had I can't remember whose cocktail. I think it was Brittany's cocktail, right?
Yeah. So Brittany had, so I have the list down here. Seeger, and you and Seeger kind of had a nice little Chicago name game session.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. We know a lot of the same people.
Black garlic grouper, gougere, sorry. Gougere, Tagiache olives. I'm butchering this all together. Then he had the Vesper, the gin, vodka, and then Nana did the Yassa onion crab cake with parsnip puree, and the French 75, which was gin, prosecco, simple syrup, and lemon. And then Brittany also did the steak tartare with the sunchoke puree, shaved radish, and snow peas. And the cocktail, I think I have the cocktail. My photo just cut off right at the bottom of the cocktail, but it was really good bites. They were really good bites, and especially Nana's was really good. And I think for us, she did the Yassi onion puree, which was, I think, the base dish, the base element of the dish that she got sent home for. And so it was kind of fun to eat that, and it was oh yeah, this is awesome.
She got it all on the plate. It was really good. Yeah. All right, let's see. So this episode, I loved it. I thought it was a cool episode. I thought it was I loved the side dish. I think for me, a lot of times when I'm creating something like a dish for the menu at the restaurant or even at home, I always do the sides first. I always say like, okay, what are the accoutrements? Like, what are the other things that are going? Because I can put a piece of lamb on anything. You know, I can put a piece of fish on anything. It's what is underneath or what is surrounding that. So I always go to like what that other part is, because I can find a protein to match anything. So I thought this was a great challenge.
It was a great challenge. And one thing, and we'll get to it, is we also didn't know when we were eating the food that there were supposed to be mains.
Ah.
So all we had was the menu that said Southern sides, and then each of the dishes were Southern sides. And so when we were eating it, we were like, oh, this is great. Da, 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 da. Really like this dish. Da, da. But we didn't understand the challenge. So our rankings or our review of the food had nothing to do with that conceit, that prompt. And I found that really interesting with who was in the bottom three and the top three, because it was different than what our collective response was on the challenge, because we didn't really interpret the dishes as they were supposed to be mains. So I really liked that challenge, and it was great to see the Colliers. And we'll start from the top here. Tristan Epps-Long, he's back and he's in his element. This was a really fun episode for him.
I'm digging him so much. Not that I didn't like him last season. I'm liking his like energy. You know, he's like out of the competition, and he gets to, I felt like he gets to have like way more fun with it. I thought that everything he said was really insightful. I enjoyed, I think he did a great job as a judge.
Yeah, he comes back and he does the Quickfire with Kristen. Of course, everyone recognizes him because he's the reigning champ, right? And they do this food for the Quickfire. They do food fights with Josh Wine pairing. They had a red, a white, and a rosé, and the winning team gets $15,000. So, Sara, just gamesmanship here is. What do you have here?
I have no Quickfire written down, and I'm like, holy shit, they're going straight into the challenge. I'm like, they're not even going to do a Quickfire, because I'm thinking a tasting paired with wine as a Quickfire, and you had to like divide into teams. And then I realized it is the Quickfire, and I had to like scribble it out. That was an intense Quickfire. That is a lot to get done in 30 minutes. Like a lot
to get done. And it's teamwork. So the interesting thing here from a gamesmanship standpoint was that they drew knives, but it wasn't They drew knives for flavor, and then they broke into teams. Whereas I thought that they were going to draw knives for teams, and then they figured out what the flavors were. Can you walk me through the advantage of would you have preferred, Sara, to draw knives for your teams and then figure out who's going to do the different wine pairings? Or would you have rather be able to, okay, I'm going to get my flavor, and now I'm going to go figure out which team I want to play with, or which other contestants I want to play with?
I always want to pick like who I'm going to play with. You know, I never want to, I hate when you would be decided like on a team. It was always nice when you got to pick, because you already had like, you had some like relationship, you had some repertoire, like, or not repertoire, rapport.
Rapport?
Rapport, not repertoire. Or maybe you had repertoire your rapport. But I always wanted to pick who I was going to be with. And I thought it was a really smart, like you need a white, you need a rosé, you need a red. I think there was only like one rosé to choose from. But the white people, I saw they had a Chard, a Sauvignon Blanc, a Pinot Grigio, and then they had 5 reds to choose from. So it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The teams broke out as Team Chicago, which was blue, Seeger, Justin, and Jennifer. So we did see Justin and Jennifer pair up, and they all have ties to Chicago. So that was one team. Then red was Anthony, Dwen, and Jonathan. Green was Brandon, Brittany, and Oscar. And cream was Lawrence, Rhoda, and Sherry, which is also Team Sara. Right off the bat, I was like, oh, I'm screwed. Sarah's going to clean up on this episode, which you did eventually. But man, when Rhoda and Lawrence and Sherry were on a team, I did the math. They, according to our point system in the fantasy scoring, they had by far the most points in like the rankings, power rankings, these teams. So the cream team with Rhoda, Lawrence, and Sherry had 41 points. Then you had the red team. Actually, it wasn't a blowout, but the red team had collectively 34 points up to this point in the competition with Anthony, Dwen, and Jonathan. And then Team Green, which was Brandon, Oscar, and Brittany, they had 17 points, so about half as much as that tier. And then the blue team, the poor blue team coming into this had a lot to prove, Seeger, Justin, and Jennifer. And they come out on top. It was the flipped. You would have thought that based on the performance up to this point, blue team was going to come in last and the cream team was just going to clean up. And it was the opposite, Sarah. So like, I feel like as much as we feel like we know these chefs, we still have a lot of room to like learn more about them, and that they have a lot more room for improvement than we thought, especially Seeger just doing the double in this episode.
So Sherry looks defeated from they open with Sherry being like, she's like the opener for this episode is Sherry, like talking about how she's just lack of confidence and she's not feeling it right now. It cuts to her talking to her, and she's not even going to talk to her son. It's just a recording, right? Because at this point, her son is probably already like gone off to basic training. I mean, just as a mother, that would be horrible. But as I'm watching this all unfold, I have written in my notes, that was one of the reasons that I picked her. I remember that. Like I went back to all of the things that were like decided and I was like, oh, she's got like a full grown son. So she did all of this stuff while raising a child. And that is a single mother. That was like an important decider. So I think she's feeling sad, but I think this is like I'm getting like breakout moment from the production. That like she's sad,
I was thinking the opposite.
But she's not going home. Oh, you thought she was going home?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I'm watching this, I was like, oh, no. And they had like two features. It was like, I was born in New York City, homage to New York. Like I want to, like not only the son touching moments about, FaceTime with his son as he's going to boot camp, but it felt like, oh man, we're getting the whole life story, the smoked fish, the shout out to the Jewish deli in New York City back home. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of backstory for Sherry. And it makes me feel like she might be in trouble. So that's where I went, Sarah.
No, I was like, oh, they're giving her the edit, man, that she's really down. She's going to be on this Quickfire team with all these winners. And then they just flop. And, so I was thinking, I was like, this is a comeback for her. Yeah.
Well, she loses a little confidence here because of the mochi too, where Rhoda is like, we're doing mochi, and with Lawrence, who's already done the bow in the last episode and won it. It felt like, okay, let's do a cook. Did you see exactly what went wrong with the dough with the mochi, and what kind of barriers you have when you're doing a quick fire and doing 3 different types of mochis?
Well, I mean, so they had to do 3 different mochis, but Rhoda took on making the dough. And she still had to complete a filling. So she probably didn't put as much time into her filling. But the thing about doing something that is so closely related is one of those mochis is going to stand out as really good and one is going to be really bad, right? There has to be a first, second, third. So you're setting yourself up for kind of them not... It's like doing a trio, but if you have a grilled cheese sandwich and, like a ribeye with some sous vide and cheese, like if you have those different things, then you can really stand out. And I don't know how to make mochi. And if somebody had said, let's make mochi, I'd be like, let's not make mochi. Let's all do mushrooms or let's all anything. Cause I mean, and they say in there, Rhoda says, normally you cook this dough first, but we're not going to. Yeah. So I think that, I think it was probably in theory, it was great, but in execution, it just wasn't. So
yeah, so the 4 groups of 3, blue team did eggs, red team did cheese, and green team did seafood. Of the 3 of those, which team would you have liked to have been on? Like the idea of like, it would be fun to be on a team of eggs or a team of cheese or a team of seafood. Which one were you most excited about?
Cheese. Cheese is my favorite. Cheese is my favorite ingredient. If I had to give up like cheese or sauces for the rest of my life, I would give up sauces over cheese. I would take cheese.
Then you just do cheese sauces all the time.
yeah. I would take cheese is like one of my favorite ingredients. And I thought it was so smart to pick like that cheese because that cheese works in so many different ways. Like if you're kind of more on the outside, like towards the outside of the tome, it is like, has a much firmer texture. So you can do some things with that. You're in the middle. It has a much softer texture. It has a really melty texture. Like it was a smart play. So
what was it you said to me when you were in town? You said like, something about grilled cheese and tomato soup, I think.
Oh, grilled cheese and tomato soup. So anytime if I have to go anywhere and I'm like not sure, but specifically airport food, if I have to sit down at an airport bar and like, eat food, I get the grilled cheese and tomato soup. Like I will find the place in the airport that has grilled cheese and tomato soup because they're really hard to mess up. I mean, you can do it, but your expectations don't have to be too high. And, it's just a grilled cheese and soup. But that's also one of my favorite meals is grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Well, on this one, I felt like Anthony made me nervous with this dish because serving steak on toast is really challenging to eat. Like if you get a ribeye that has a little bit of fat on it, it's a hard bite, And so I was a little nervous. I love all the flavors. I love mushrooms, right? And so this whole bite seemed perfect in terms of if you had a fork and knife, but as a bite, I was a little nervous about this one, but they loved it. They really liked that dish. They felt like it was a lot of the elements that they did on Team Cheese was very smart. Dwen did the Chardonnay pairing with sunchokes and the cheese sauce. Jonathan with rosé did the grilled cheese with raspberry and apricot compote, which also looked bomb. So I think Red just did a really good job on this, but I was a little nervous about Anthony's bite. I thought that might be coming back to bite him a little bit. Well, pun intended.
Soubise also isn't like, so soubise, if you don't know, you take onions, you cook them down in quite a bit of butter. Until they are this would be the quick way, I would assume, how he does it. You just cook them with butter and a little water if you need to, but you're not trying to get any color on them. It's like a white onion puree. It stays really sweet. Sometimes people will put thickeners in there at the end if you're going like super traditional, but I doubt he did. I don't think there was any time to do that. So it can be a little messy. Like, like I'm picturing them having to pick up the thing and eat the mushroom. But we've seen Kristen does not mind. Kristen? Oh my gosh. Kristen doesn't mind. She'll just like pick the food up, get right in there. So, that looks really good. But the dish that I wanted to eat of all of them were the soft scrambled eggs. I
love soft scrambled
eggs. I love the yolk. I don't feel like anyone should ever cook a yolk. I want it as raw as possible. But I do love soft scrambled eggs. And I could tell that her eggs were just money. They were money. They had so much fat in them. I bet right at the end, really great idea.
It was
and
awesome.
They hold up.
And
all those dishes were going to hold up super well. Like if they went first, if they went last, it was fine. The sabayon that Seeger did, I wanted to eat that. Peaches poached in wine with ginger. A sabayon is like kind of like a sweetened hollandaise. Such smart cooking. I was surprised Justin did artichokes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the whole artichokes and wine thing? That was like a big thing that I didn't know about this.
It's a really hard pairing. It's just like they have like a flavor. If you fry them, they have a very specific flavor. If you poach them, they have it like it usually in barigol is what they'll call it, which is like a white wine vegetable. They just have a flavor that's really hard to pair with wine. They're notoriously hard. Yeah. But
he pulled it off.
But he poached them, then he fried them, and he had like little quail eggs and a rosé mayo. Like who doesn't want to eat? Like that's what I want to eat. It's like fried food with an egg and mayonnaise on it. Come on, that whole team really smart, really smart.
And it just goes to show that sometimes you do need to take a little bit of a risk in this show because Seeger theme of the day is taking a little bit of risk here because. When you saw Justin go for the artichoke wine pairing, people are like, oh, you can't do that, or that's really hard. I don't know why you're thinking about doing that. And then for the elimination challenge, Seeger comes in, and when they have to choose their southern sides, when Greg Collier comes in, who's, by the way, he's like a tight end. Greg Collier is huge. I remember meeting him for the first time, and when I saw him on the internet or like, pictures of him, I didn't quite realize how big that guy is. But he's he's huge. And so his presence, not only his personality, but he's just a really big presence and super fun. And so when Greg shows up with Tristan for this Southern Sides episode where he's cooking the Southern Sides, and one of them is fried okra. And I'm just sitting there like, oh boy, we're going to have a huge okra meltdown in this episode because two poor chefs are going to get the okra and have to serve it to Tristan, who doesn't like okra, to Tom, who doesn't like okra. And by the way, Greg Collier, one of my favorite meals in Charlotte was Leah and Louise. He and Sabrina opened a restaurant in Charlotte called Leah and Louise, and it was outstanding. They changed the concept into something else, but I think I ever heard rumors that they're going to bring back maybe Leah and Louise. But Kevin Arnovitz, he's eaten there before. Like when he came into town, I was like, you got to go to Leah and Louise. And I really hope they bring it back because it's an outstanding restaurant that was over in Camp North End, which was a cool end of town in Charlotte. I didn't bring you there, but next time you come through, we'll go to Camp North End. Right. And so here in Charlotte, the Colliers are kind of a really big deal. And so I knew he was going to be on this season because how do you do Charlotte without the Colliers? And then they were at the episode that I was at, which was really fun to have Tristan and Greg. Sabrina was there. But when the fried okra came out, I knew, oh man, those poor chefs, someone's going to get the short end of the stick. And how about what a boss Seeger was to go back and go get the okra is an insanely confident move.
Yeah, it was I don't know. Was it confidence or was it like, wait a second, I have the opportunity to do it a little different? Or was it like, I'll have people come into the restaurant. Okay. So I want to say one thing. Tom Colicchio, you like okra. Quit saying you don't like okra, because I served him okra and he was like, oh, I don't like okra, but I love the way this one was done. And I remember Kelsey gave him okra and he was like, I don't like okra, but I do like this okra. So that's not my usual Tom voice. But he keeps eating okra. People cook him okra all the time. And he's never like, oh, I hate okra. I feel like somebody else has already given him okra in this season. I can't remember, but he likes it. Quit saying you don't like it. How about you could just say like, I have a preference that I don't prefer, or like, I don't prefer okra, but you like it because you just made it a winning dish. So therefore you like it. It's like people that say, I don't like onions, or I don't like, I don't like tomatoes. And I'm like, do you like ketchup? They're like, oh, I love ketchup. I'm like, well, motherfucker, that is tomatoes. So yeah. So Tom, you like okra, and Tristan, I believe you also like okra. So there you go.
That's like me with spinach, where my mom, we used to get like that brick of frozen spinach, and she would just heat it up in the microwave. And then that was my spinach experience as a kid. And I'm like, oh, I don't like spinach. I hate spinach. And then I grew up to learn what actually like fresh spinach tastes like, and how you prepare it is totally different. And it's not that frozen brick that you get from Stop and Shop, right? And so I always thought I just didn't like spinach. And then I had a really good spinach experience. I'm like, oh, this is what it's supposed to taste like. I get it. So I feel like I'm team Sara on this one, that maybe Tom just had a bad experience as a kid and just a slimy okra that has haunted him for his whole life, but he actually truly does like okra. Yeah.
You like okra. Tom, get over it.
So you think
I'm telling you right now what you like and don't like. So,
Yeah, listen to Sara about your actual palate. Seeger, so you're taking a different read on this. Is that Seeger saw an opportunity to just zag and was like, I don't know, I guess I'll just go with the okra. Because I read that as confidence, because otherwise it seemed like it was an unnecessary move. He could have just gone with whatever he chose first.
Well, I think it was confidence. I think it was more a strategy though than confidence, right? Like you don't have to go head to head with somebody. Like you can put something up, because all those other people, they went out and they were like, oh, well, this collard green compared to this collard green, and this, like even with like Lawrence and Oscar, they loved Lawrence and they were like, Oscar's is great. Does it make, this is like, red beans or this is beans and rice or Hoppin' John. They're like, does it make his a better dish? Like, I don't know. So they were comparing plate for plate, even though they weren't supposed to be. So when he picked up okra, all of a sudden he stood out a little bit. So I think it was extremely strategical and very smart.
Okay. Yeah. So I buried it until now. I'll tell you why that was the worst dish.
Oh yeah.
The pork belly was inedible. Inedible.
Like inedible as in, there you go. There you go. That's it.
Undercooked. The whole table was just like, they picked up their pork belly, like the rind of the pork belly, the back. And it was just raw. Right. And we were like, we can't eat this. And we didn't even know that it was an okra dish, you know? And so, and the okra was kind of like a side thing to the undercooked protein. And for all of us at the table, we were just like, man, that's at the bottom for sure. It's hard to eat.
Okay. So I'm doing the math. There were 6 groups went up to put their dishes up. Seeger and them went last. So from the time that they served the collards first, right? Was it collards first?
So here's the interesting thing. We had it in different order.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they were probably putting up like 6 plates at a time, maybe more, but I think I saw them. They were all putting up like 6 plates. So from the time that the first group served to the time that Seeger served his, you say 20 minutes in between each presentation of dishes. You think that's felt about right? That's over an hour. He has over an hour to perfect that pork belly before he gets it in front of the judges. So
it was
going last is a benefit, man.
There were 6 rounds. Our first round was the hoe cake with the hangover dish, right? Mm-hmm. Which, as I'm learning now, that was Jonathan, right? Yeah, yep. That was Jonathan's dish. So the first dish was the heaviest of the entire thing. So when we first got that thing, we were like, oh my God, we're never going to finish this meal because the first thing we ate was that super heavy, decadent, the gochujang chicken with the French toast. And it was so heavy that we were like, we're screwed. Like if this is going to be the day. But we liked it, but it felt like just extra rich. And then we had the hoe cake with pot liquor, Jennifer's dish. And that was the first round. Then round 2 was the okra. Salty? Yes, but I'm learning I'm a salt whore. Like I love salt, like salty food. Spoiler alert, I loved Anthony's dish and they all thought it was way too salty, but I was like, oh, this is delicious. So I'm learning that my salt tolerance is way higher than most people. So I thought it was a little salty. I didn't love the hoe cake texture, that some of it was soggy and then in the pot liquor and then some of it was dry. It just didn't, I didn't love that part of it. But then the second round of the Southern Sides was the pork belly. So it was fairly early and then they were last. It's great. It's a great pickup by you. I think it had the largest difference between time of eating for the 40 guests at the restaurant versus what the judges got. And you could really taste that with the pork belly.
Yeah. I mean, we had a couple challenges like that, and it's just such an advantage. At least the sooner going first, it's crazy. You don't have time to tweak it. It may not be done. Like, like if you're cooking fresh beans, the difference in like an hour and a half or so, a lot of times they soak up when they're sitting in the liquid, they soak up a lot of that extra seasoning. So I was thinking maybe that's why I asked if Jennifer's was salty, because maybe, if it wasn't salty for you, but then it was salty by the time it got to the judges, maybe it had set too long or maybe over reduced a little. So there's a lot of like really, even like Lawrence was able, that first table, the first time the rice went out, I bet it wasn't super crisp. I mean, I bet it wasn't perfect, but they went second, right? Favorite. He went to the judges second.
He went fourth. Well, fourth? Second round. Yeah, second round.
Yeah, second round. And so he probably had a couple pans, getting crispy, and he sent the first one out, and then this is what I would have done. And then he was able to ring mold the perfect amount of crispy rice for each judge. Now, if every person in that room got that, I don't think so. You're supposed to. I doubt they did. But, so he got to send the first one out and be like, oh, this is exactly what I'm going to do. So it was, so maybe Seeger, just got like, he probably benefited if you couldn't eat his pork, but then they could. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I kind of just blew right past this. I realized, shouts to Deep Roots, the farm in North Charlotte, that they got to go in and pick out some of their foods and learn some more of the local produce and the history of it. Did that farm, as you're watching it, remind you of anything that is in Kentucky or something that regenerative soil is something that I hadn't really known too much about, but that's pretty cool too. So what were your thoughts about that?
I'll take a soapbox for a second. My husband and I have this like very crazy idea that at some point food will not be labeled like organic or this or that, but we would love to see it be labeled by like a soil health number. Okay. Because what farmers put into the soil is so significant and so important for the longevity of the land and the food that grows in it. You put it in horrible soil, it's just not that nutritious. So I would probably rather eat carrots that came from like, if 10's the top and I could buy carrots that came from a number 10 soil, or I could buy carrots that are labeled organic but came from a number 4 soil, I'm going 10 because it means they're a better farmer. It means the soil is healthier. It means they're doing all these practices to make sure that their land is good. And so I love regenerative farming. I think it's a move that the culinary world and the actual whole entire world is going to have to take at some point.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, I love this. And this is something that we were able to get in some of these dishes because a lot of these sides, there's a protein in there, but it's going to shine with the sides. It's going to shine with your produce. And so I think when we go through this episode, we're starting to see that Tom, when he gives a shout out to Sherry, like, we know you're cooking, like we can really tell you're cooking on this one. I think it's true. Like when you can kind of pick out Sherry's dish, and we really liked, I think we had like 2 or 3 favorites at the table when we ate. And then there were 8 or so that were kind of okay, like solid dishes that didn't stand out. Sherry was in there of like good dishes. But we really, if we had to do a top 3 at the table where I was at, where at least my top 3 was Lawrence, Anthony, and Lawrence and Anthony stood out. And then it's so funny because we didn't know who made the dishes, but we remember being like, that one's definitely in the top, Lawrence. And then Anthony's we really liked. And then, because we also didn't know that it was supposed to be a main. So the whole critique on Anthony's was it was pretty salty. Yeah, for sure. But also they were really hung up that it wasn't a main. It didn't feel like a main. And we just didn't have that critique. So we actually really liked Anthony's, Lawrence, and then Sherry's was going to be in that top 2. So that we would put Sherry's up there because it had a lot of different potato elements and the foam. Some people at the table weren't in love with the foam not because they don't like foam, but because it didn't stay on the plate. It kind of evaporated and it didn't have this like foam effect. And some people just don't like the whole foam thing. But Sherry's definitely has a style.
Well, I noticed Sherry called it a nage on the description online. They're like on the TV description, it said a nage, which is like a very light broth. But she said nage a couple times and she said foam a couple times. So I'm feeling like the foam collapsed and I'm guessing that maybe the foam collapsed and she was like, oh, let's call this a nage now because I can't get it to stay long enough to the table. She wasn't first, so she probably saw that it wasn't holding. So was it a nage? Was it a foam? I don't know. But I'll tell you whose dish I really wanted to eat, and I really want to know what you thought about it, was Dwin, because to me, treating that cabbage that way, adding a whole nother element, it had pickled corn and grits, the same vegetable, it felt to me like that was an entree. That is something that you could have at like a regular restaurant. We do cabbage all the time as vegetarian things, and we put it on, you have to serve more than just a large piece of charred cabbage with some foam on top, like Brandon did. She really curated and created a dish. How was it? Was it delicious?
It was delicious. We didn't find that the cabbage was very front and center. We thought that was kind of like an element on the dish as a minor character. And we felt that the tomato broth, the sauce, was overpowering. Like that some of the ingredients got lost in the sauce, so to speak. Yeah. And so we liked her dish. But we felt that maybe it was the tomato sauce was overbearing in a way that we wish we got a little bit more cabbage, because maybe there's also the fact that we got the other cabbage dish, which was just a head of cabbage, right? And so there was a lot of cabbage. So maybe we were comparing her dish to Brandon's that was undercooked. We did find that it was way too watery, that when you cut into it, it just kind of like splashed everywhere on your dish. And so that element that they talked about in Judge's Table was very consistent with ours, is that we really wanted to love that dish, but it just was way too watery.
I would have loved to have had cabbage. One time on Last Chance Kitchen, I had cabbage. And Tom comes over and he's like, "Oh, you're burning your cabbage." I was like, "No, this is exactly what I want." And if I'd had cabbage, I would have, and smothered cabbage. Like, oh man, that would have been that I also would have reached for that one. Cause I think cabbage is something that's really easy to make a main, like potato salad. Like, how do you make that a main, But yeah. And if Britney's had executed, I think she would have been right up there, because that felt like it could have been, something. Yes, it still would have been kind of side-ish, but it would have felt more like I maybe would have made him a little bigger. I don't know.
So let's get into it. You want to get into it?
Brittany. I'm so sorry, girl. She's really cool. She's super cool. I really enjoyed getting to meet her, but that dish was a struggle.
Okay, so what happened there? Because what I'm watching is someone who put the sausage in the steamer, but when she goes back to it, they didn't cook. She pulls it out and she says, "My pork is cold. Like it's cold. It didn't actually cook." And at first, I thought that it was a malfunction issue, but it seems like she actually just didn't know how to use the machine correctly, and that was her fault. That was her fault line there. Or what do you think happened there with the cook? Because it seemed like it just did not cook at all. Like something went wrong, horribly wrong.
So there definitely was steam in that machine at some point, because did you notice when she opened it up, all of that water that was in the pan? So that steam, that water came from somewhere. When she was wrapping those, and I saw her wrapping them in like blanched collards. So collards are tough. You got to cook them. You see everybody, they cook them. We don't cook ours to death like most people do. But you have to cook them. So I saw her blanching them, and I'm thinking that's going to add a lot of moisture to this sausage already. So I thought she was going to like roast them in the oven, put them on the plancha or under the salad. I thought for sure she's going to blanch them, stuff that in there, and then go with dry heat. But she didn't. So yeah.
So it was what your thought was, that it was more of a choice of how she was going to cook rather than that the machine didn't work, or that she didn't know how to use the steamer.
Something definitely happened with the machine, because when she opened that door, steam didn't come rolling out. And when you open like a combi or a steamer, like you pop that open, steam comes flying out. Like you got to back up for a second. And when she opens it, if I remember correctly, the steam doesn't come flying out of there. I don't even know if she's got a towel, but it doesn't even look like the hotel pan is like very hot. Yeah, but she did have it wrapped in foil, and there was a ton of liquid in that pan. So I don't know what happened. But I probably would have taken those things. I would have put them on a little passing tray, or I would have used that griddle like right there where she was like threw her sausage on there and mush. And I just would have like roasted them nicely, just like roasted them around until that collard would have gotten like some nice crispy texture on it. Yeah, that was a tough one, but kudos for pulling through and getting food on the plate. And Tristan under his breath says, "You can't admit that. You can't say that." Never admit that. When I think what he was critiquing was, I just had to get something down on the plate. Don't mention that. Just say like, "This is my dish. I had to pivot, and this is my dish." And
Tristan just said, never admit that I had to get something down on the plate, because you're already kind of cutting your legs out from underneath you, is just admitting that this is not what I wanted to do and I'm not thrilled with it, but I had to put something down on the plate. So we've talked strategy about how to talk about your dish. Eric, last year, I remember just the strategy of how you present and tell the story of your dish. Maybe Britney just knew that she was going, there's no way she was not going home. So she didn't take the care to think of how she was going to construct her story. But how much time do you take when you're on Top Chef, just thinking about the delivery and the story of your dish and how I want to phrase things?
So I'm looking at like my notes. Okay. So I'm just going to give you Lawrence's dish. Hop and Wong. It's crispy rice with charred shiitakes, butter beans, cured egg yolk. Okay, so you have to finalize your menu description before you ever send your food out. Like, you give the producers like an idea of like, okay, this is what I think my dish is going to be. And then they say, okay, you got like 20 minutes or whatever, because they have to print those menus. So Lawrence has like, let's say his egg yolk breaks, all of his egg yolks break, but he has written on the menu cured egg yolk. Then they're going to be like, well, where's the cured egg yolk? You look at Seeger writes, Seeger writes braised okra and pork belly with seeded tempura. That's it. Braised okra and pork belly. Does he feel like the pork belly's undercooked and now he needs to crisp it up? Doesn't matter, because he just said pork belly. He just said braised okra. He didn't say like, I'm looking for another one. Like,
Sara, I'm going to ask you to look in our text messages, because I sent you the menu of what we got. And we were chuckling at the table about round 3. We didn't have the knowledge of who made the dish, but Sherry's dish, I come to learn, was on the menu that we got at the table, a very fancy looking menu. Round 3 was warm potato salad, smoked trout, textures of potato, cucumber, potato skin broth, deep roots herb salad. And then on the other side,
that's what the menu description said?
On the other side, it just said potato salad.
Wait, like Justin said potato salad?
It just said potato salad. So we were just laughing at the table. Like,
send me a picture of this. I don't see it.
So, all right, it's in our.
Is it like a long time ago pictures?
No, it was yesterday morning in the Pack Your Knives group chat.
You guys, I'm now in the Pack Your Knives group chat, and I feel so special. And Tom has like named the Pack Your Knives group chat. Like, it has like the little plate emoji with like the fork and the knife, so you can find it easily in the text.
Apparently not, though.
Yeah, I know. Oh, here it is.
So I just sent it to you directly.
No, I got it. I just missed it.
So look at round 3.
Yeah, those are ridiculous. Can we send this to May so they can put a picture of it? We can cut this in. Yeah. Yeah, so I would have gone with like, that's crazy.
But what happened there then? So you think that Justin didn't know exactly what he wanted to do, and so like I don't know yet, guys. Just put potato salad on the menu.
No, I think like I always went very, very minimal. Like,
it gives you a lot of latitude.
Yeah, like Rhoda, hers seems great. She's got red curry rice and crispy fried rice or crispy fried egg. Like, she has on here, she's got crispy rice salad with red curry, smoked sausage, and fried egg. So they're like changing it a little bit from what's on the menu description. But I always went like 3 things maximum. 3 things, maybe sometimes just 2, very limited words. And I still do that to this day. Like, even on the other ones where they're like, what do you want to call this dish? And I'm like, sweet potato pie or whatever, I don't know. But you don't want to give them too much, right? Yeah.
Especially with this kind of challenge where things can go sideways, where I love that Sherry had like a fully composed like poem of her dish. And then Justin was just potato salad. Show me potato salad. That's a Family Guy reference. And I remember seeing it. We were all just laughing. Like, even if it is an amazing potato salad, it feels like to me it wasn't a well-conceived dish because he couldn't even put anything other than potato salad on the menu. But at the end, it was good. It was a good, like, Justin had a good potatoes, the Yukon potato with the potato salad within it was like a solid dish, but with the scallion cream, but we were predisposed to just think it wasn't a well thought out dish because he just had no description in his thing. So to your point, when round 4 came to our table, the hop and Juan with Oscar's dish, we laughed. We thought it was a good pun. And we knew that it was like probably a Mexican chef or a Latin chef that was going to do a Spanish inspired hop and John. But if you notice in the description for Lawrence's dish that we got on our menu, Sarah, there was no pun on that one. So we didn't know that it was we could tell that it was Asian inspired and there was a cured egg yolk and it was crispy fried rice. But none of us at the table knew about the hop and Huang joke in there. And so then when they showed it on air on the episode, I was like, oh, that makes it so much better. That's great that they had a hop and Juan and a hop and Huang. And then we didn't get that element on this, but it would have been nice to get that. It just says hop and John clay pot with marinated deep roots, farm shiitake mushrooms. I'll right off the bat, this was my dish. Like if I'm at a restaurant, like all of those elements is what I'm ordering. Like it was perfect for me. So I'm already just all that umami and the cured. I think back to Michael's Genuine in Miami. They had this cured egg dish that was just, I'll always think about whenever I get a cured egg. And I loved Lawrence's dish. And I thought the same notes. And because I already admitted that I just love salt and salty foods, is I thought it was under seasoned, just like the judges did for Oscars. It was really good, but it just felt a little flat because it was under seasoned.
I think that sometimes people will be like, oh, the food, like so at our restaurant, like everything is seasoned at every point of cooking, if that makes sense. Like when we blanch vegetables in water, like say it's asparagus, I've got salt in the water. We also put a little bit of sugar, right? Because asparagus, it's a fresh vegetable, and inherently you want fresh vegetables to kind of taste a little sweet. So they get just a little sugar in there. There's a lot of salt in there, and every component of the dish is seasoned. So I'll have to tell cooks all the time. They're like, "What? I think the salt or I think the seasoning from this part will like carry over." And I'm like, "But that you can't bank on that because if one thing is under seasoned, it will take the other things that are seasoned and it will bring them down." So if his rice was under seasoned and the other part tasted really good, all of a sudden everything tasted under seasoned, and it stood out even more that the rice was not seasoned properly. So yeah, you have to cook everything. So we also struggle when people come to our restaurant and they're like, no salt. And we're like, we season everything. Like it takes time out of like the cooking process, like when you're on the line and cooking, you don't want to have to be rechecking the seasoning of everything over and over and over and over. We do, but if you know that you're already kind of there. So, yeah, I'm just glad they cooked the rice properly because I feel like a lot of times we see people not cooking rice properly. So, I think the dish for me that I would have really liked to eat. So I would have liked to eat the shrimp or the cabbage and grits. I also really would have liked to have tried Jennifer's because this is a Sara dish. This is like take a slice of cornbread, and I take the cornbread left over at the end of the meal. And it's like we make this bacon fat cornbread. And I use like a little bit of like some braising pork juice that's like laying around and some black-eyed peas. And I just made like a big bowl with a slice of cornbread and some peas and or pot liquor from the greens or whatever liquid, whatever's like brothy laying around. And for me, that's a meal. That is my meal. Mm-hmm. That has been my meal for many years. So I don't know why she decided to try using flours that she didn't use before. Like if she knew how to make a hoe cake, she should just make a hoe cake. But yeah, I thought it looked really good with the cheese on top. Like, oh man, it was like speaking to me. But you said, was it salty to you? Yeah.
Not too salty to me. No, we liked this dish. It was solid. But I think it was the pot liquor, the broth that it was sitting in kind of made it felt a little dry on top, and then it was too soggy. It was just kind of like a Goldilocks situation, which we wanted kind of that moist, center that we got too soggy on the bottom, too dry at top, and it just wasn't. It didn't hit the right. But I really liked it, and the fact that she's got this shoulder issue. That both dishes that she did in this episode, she's still bringing it, and that was, to me, that was like the most standalone, interesting dish. Jennifer's idea, like of all the dishes that we had here, I thought that might have been the most like inventive, standalone, like unique dish that she came up with, and to her credit, I remember Greg and Sabrina talking about that. Sabrina Collier was like, "Oh yeah, that's a meal for sure." So you totally agree with that? Yeah,
100% agree. I think I didn't love that they were just like, "Oh, if they had just added a protein, this would have felt like an entree." And I hate that. That felt to me like the judges. I don't know. It's like, oh, just put a protein on it. That's a cop out, I think, as a chef, just to put a protein on it. And then, like I just said, like I love to figure out what the sides and all the things are going to be, because I can figure out whatever protein. I can slap any protein on there. At the restaurant, we have, right now, I think we have 8 entrees. 3 of them are vegetarian. You could make an entree very easily out of vegetables.
I just realized Jennifer's was in the bottom. As we're talking about it, I didn't realize that she was in the bottom. Really? Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, they said it was super salty and very dense bread. I thought it looked fabulous.
This one, I think the judges' table and our meals were very different. Very different. And I think that's really interesting, is that, there's a bit of gamesmanship in there, is that this is part of Top Chef, is the timing of it all will affect how your food tastes. I'm surprised they didn't put Jonathan in the bottom. Brandon on the bottom with the cabbage that was just really undercooked. The way that they described that dish, it felt like that was going to be in the bottom. So I'm surprised. Anthony, the Anthony one really grinds my gears, Sarah. It was like, really, it was that much of a side. It felt too much of a side to you that you're going to put it in the bottom 3 when there were poor cooks on the others. It was well cooked. It was just a little too salty. And if you're going to err on underseasoned or overseasoned, I'm always going to go overseasoned when you're presenting to the judges. You don't want to present underseasoned food. I was stunned that Jennifer and Anthony were in the bottom of this one, because Anthony was consensus one of the top dishes, but then again, we also didn't know it was supposed to be, quote unquote, supposed to be a main. So this one was an interesting bottom 3. Like, we knew Britney was going home, but the other 2 dishes, I just felt like, given the edit, I'm surprised they were in the bottom. And so maybe I put Brandon in the bottom. And then who else?
Britney. You ate Britney's, right?
For sure, Britney. But if there was going to be a third to replace Jennifer and Anthony in the bottom, just based on the reviews that we saw on the edit, maybe it's Rhoda. I don't know. The fried egg that she presented, which was like deep fried. It was a deep fried egg, I think, right?
I was like so intrigued. I was like, the whites were like all spirally, and like, I'm going to go to the restaurant on Tuesday morning. I'm going to drop an egg in the fryer and see what happens.
I think it was a deep fried egg, because it was burnt around, crusty on the outside. And then on the inside, it was kind of like a poached egg almost. It was like a very runny egg. So you had both elements, right? And the puffed rice, Tom loved the puffed rice, but the egg kind of had too much of a neighborhood consistency to the puffed rice, that it was just too close. And but it was an interesting egg, because I remember looking at it, and there were a few eggs in this round. I love a good egg, but it was a solid cook top to bottom. I remember everyone at the table being so excited to eat Top Chef food, and really we felt that there were like 2, maybe 3 standout dishes, and then the rest were like, okay. Brittany's when we ate it, we didn't know the whole story behind the cook and everything. We didn't know that everything went sideways and that the steamer didn't work. So it wasn't our favorite, but it wasn't the worst dish on the table. I remember it was, collectively, we all just could not eat the pork belly. And we felt that was just, it was a bridge too far for us. That if you can't cook your protein, it's going to ruin the entire dish. And that was so funny to watch, that when he won, I was like, oh, Lawrence is going to win, or Sherry's going to win. And then when they picked Seeger, I was floored Sara because it was our least favorite dish.
I don't know. Britney, she did have time just for some pivots. I saw her, it was like 16 minutes. She pulled them out. I probably would have checked them before that amount of time because I think they had 90 minutes to prep and cook before they had to serve their first dishes. So, which is still, again, it's crazy. So she had 90 minutes to prep and cook and she had to put out her first dish. Seeger had 90 minutes to prep and cook and then he had to put out, and then he had an additional hour before he had to serve the judges. So, but she could have just taken those things and put them like right on the plancha. She could have thrown them in the oven up top that was on 400. I think she just panicked and pulled them all apart. I don't know. Maybe she was hoping she would like get to a different spot and they would be cooked. Yeah, but it didn't sound good. It didn't sound good. Mayonnaise. It's like she made sausage potato salad and rolled it up inside of the thing. And then you could see from the picture that there was like a little bit of char on it. So it looks like it went under the Sally or it went somewhere back into the oven. Maybe she hit it with a torch, but some of the collards were burnt or like charred. Yeah, that's a rough one. A rough one.
Did you have, when you were sent home, I guess no. I mean, with Amar, did you know, okay. That's it.
Amar and I had, we knew, I think, I don't know.
Was there in the middle of the cook where you're like, yep, I'm done?
At one point the oven, so we were using like a combi oven there. And at one point we went over it and he was like, this oven is off, and the oven was turned off. And that is not, I don't think that this was done maliciously, but, I think both Tom and Buddha, they were on separate teams. And they had thermometers inside, shoved into their Wellingtons. And then I think they had it set that when it got to that internal temperature, the oven would turn off. So we put ours in and there were only 2 thermometer hookups. So we put ours in, but once they got to the internal temperature, it shut off. And so just didn't cook as much. We knew we were going home. We were, yeah.
What's that feeling like? Is it?
It's not great.
Is there a piece to it? Just being like, okay, this is.
When I got sent home that time, we were walking away. Of course, I'm crying, and I turned back around and I was like, "Can I just say something?" And I think they thought I was going to be like, "Fuck," blah blah blah, whatever I was, and I was just I just told all of the crew and the staff, thank you so much for documenting a story that I can tell my children. It's not often that people get to go and their children or their families get to see what they do when they go to work, right? You're on TV, so your family gets to, your kids get to see what you do when you go out there and everything. So it's really cool. So I thanked them all and then went in the back. And if you see, I think that we're all sitting around talking and I have a glass of wine that Gabri had poured me. And it's the glass of wine is full to the absolute brim. So I think we knew we were going home. Plus there was only 3 teams. So it was we were obviously in the bottom there. We were not surprised.
Speaking of surprise, one thing that really grabbed me in this episode was how everybody was in tears when Britney went home. Rhoda, as she's leaving, everyone's waterworks, everyone's hugging her. And as she's leaving, Rhoda has to go and grab her before she walks out the door and just gives her another hug. Britney was beloved by this crew. These people really loved Britney. And to see her go home, she really touched those lives. And it was really clear that they all had a really special place for Britney. And the funny thing is that she didn't perform very well in Top Chef this year. Tom even sat her down, did the whole hey, what's going on? Seriously, what's going on? You haven't really cooked your great food. And he even did I've eaten your food before and it was great at Stagione. So what is going on? And so to have that pep talk from Tom and to not be cooking the way that she wanted to on the show, maybe you would suppose that she's just not cut out for Top Chef or she was nervous the whole time. But man, in that room, in that stew room, you could tell she was beloved by all of her friends there, or the competitors there.
You know, I mean, before we went to Sala, that's what it was called, right? For the top. Yeah. We went over to Stagioni and ate. It was great. And Greg Collier, like, as she's exiting, he says she is one of the best cooks in Charlotte. So I think there's not a question, because she made it onto Top Chef. Like, there's no question. Day can cook. Nana can cook. Jossie, we know that these are great chefs, because you wouldn't make it if you weren't great. But, you know, some of the best chefs that I have, some of the most delicious food I've ever had came from people that didn't do well. Like, for example, Annie Petrie, she was on the Rookie versus, it was in Charleston. It was the Charleston season. And she went home like first or second. She will say, like, she hated the cameras. She felt uncomfortable, but she had a restaurant in Louisville for years called Decca, and it was just like phenomenal.
Oh, love Decca.
Phenomenal.
And the downstairs, super fun. Yeah.
So cool, right? Like, yeah, like I know you've been there. She actually threw a Top Chef watch party for me. Like, it was, but her food was so good. And she just wasn't made for TV. She just didn't do it. So I think, like, these other people, like, I would go eat a 17-course tasting menu that Day put up any day. I'll eat that. I would love to try it. Day, invite me. But I mean, we don't really know. She just might have had one bad day. She had one bad day and we lost her. So.
And we finally got to see, because I called this out in the first episode, Brittany's confessionals. She was always teary-eyed in the confessionals, and I was like, oh, she goes out in the first episode, right? No, but with the way confessionals work is that can you explain again, just, is it like 3-4 episodes go by before you do a confessional typically, or your experience? Because then we saw the waterworks and her getting emotional on this episode.
It's like by the time that so all right, so it's kind of set up like this. Like, everybody has the same backdrop. You go in and you are talking in your confessionals, you're speaking in present tense. I am cooking, marbled potatoes in this, because it's the chefs that are documenting the story. That's what makes Top Chef so amazing, is that we are the ones telling the story. I mean, they're piecing it all together, but it's like, it's from our mouths. And so sometimes those interviews do not take place until weeks. So if you take like the finales and stuff, like, I think when we went to France this time, so when we went to France, they were like still interviewing far before that. Like, we were still recapping them, because there's so much moving around. There's so many moving parts. And so, yeah, I think the last day I probably had to do like 6-7 hours of interviews to like get all caught up, just to be able to go home. So for Britney, it might have been that the confessional time was taped right after she got sent home, right? So like all those emotions might have been like, because this is episode 4. No, so I don't think so. I don't think they do like an on the fly. They call it like an OTF interview. But those interviews where they're not, because they only have so many camera crews, right? Like, they take you in and they talk to you some, but they do like an OTF, but you don't go straight back to interview. And I mean, I think they might, I don't know. Shit, I don't know.
It wasn't just me. I've seen in Reddit, like, people are like,
one time.
Yeah.
And we did not go straight to interviews. We went back to our hotel. There was no interview. Yeah.
But I've seen on Reddit people being like, wow, Brittany's crying like in her confessionals, but she's still on the show. Or like, she seems like she's emotional in the confessionals, that she's just been crying all day. And then, we see that she goes home on this one and she was crying. So I kind of felt like, in my mind, what was going on was she does the confessional about, going home. And then they're like, hey, can we go back to episode 1? And I know you got to gather yourself and like, let's just take a break. And then can we talk about your dish in episode 1? And then she has to like retell that story about episode, like one of her cooks at the Speedway. So that's how I imagined it going down, is that she already had her, like, I'm so I'm so grateful for being on Top Chef. I'm really proud of the work I did, and I wanted to show out for Charlotte, and just having that emotional overflow. And then, hey, can you, we didn't get enough on episode 2 on the Quickfire. Do you mind just if we just go back to that?
Well, so you have 3 interview outfits. You have one outfit that is for before Restaurant Wars or before the halfway mark. You have one that is from the halfway mark to the finales. And then you have one for like the top, 3 or whatever. Well, so I mean, you have different outfits, so they go back and forth. They realize that they didn't get you, explaining how you made a dish, or, they realize they want to ask you about your friend who just got sent. So, they go back and forth, and but those emotions are raw. I mean, I still sometimes think about that liver and I just want to weep that I cooked, like I still think about it. So I think that even though it didn't probably happen right then, it was setting in. And usually when you get kicked off that night, they do allow you, if you do drink, they allow you access to some alcohol. So when you wake up the next day and go to do all your interviews, you're, a little hungover.
You're looking for that, that Jonathan Gochujang chicken with French toast. And
I would be like slamming Diet Cokes. Just like blump, 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 blump.
Mine's Gatorade. Like I need a gallon of lemon lime Gatorade after a long night. Or I'm kind of one of those guys at the diner, just with coffee, Gatorade, juice, like 18 different drinks just to find the right elixir. We didn't really talk about Seeger's dish here. So the braised pork belly, what are your thoughts? Like you obviously didn't eat what I had, but what were your thoughts on him having like that crumble on top and kind of doing, not deconstructed, but reinvented fried okra? What did you think about Seeger's dish? He's just, spoiler alert, Sara is sweeping the floor this season. I mean, you had Sherry, Seeger, and Lawrence in the top 3 here. Seeger takes home the victory, not just in the Quickfire, but here. But take your victory lap on Seeger's dish here and what you thought about it. Yep.
Thought it was super smart. It's like, he was like, you know what? I'm going to hide the like gelatinous or like icky sticky part of okra, because I'm going to give you something that's even more icky sticky, like gelatinous. I love pork belly cooked like that. At the restaurant, we take like whole slabs of bacon and we braise them in this like liquid. I think we've talked about it before. And I am the asshole that like goes over and pulls like the really gelatinous-y pieces of fat. Like I'll take a little nibble off the corner until the pastry chef yells at me and tells me to quit touching it. We have to press it. That's one of my favorite like textures, is that like slow cooked braised fat. And I like the way the skin gets. I thought that was such a smart dish because it was everything underneath. It was like one texture, right? It was like okra's that way, pork belly was that way, but probably even more than the okra. And then he just covered it in this crispy bit. So you were getting like crispy, like okra. It was a really smart dish. Yeah. So I think it was super smart. I would have loved to have eaten that, but I didn't get to. It was giving me Stephanie Izard vibes, if you want to know the truth. Have you ever been to any of her restaurants?
Yes. Yeah.
You know how like everything she does has like wonderful texture on top of it? Like I feel like that's part of her as a chef. Like she just, everything she makes has such good texture. She has like all this little crispy quinoa and little crispy rice. And I don't know if that's the restaurant group they all worked for together. I don't know if maybe it was, I don't know if she's Boca or Lettuce. I don't know. I can't remember, but, it felt to me like a very much like a Stephanie Izard dish with like all covered in like seeded, like crunchy bits all over the top.
Did you finally found the common ground with Seeger? So you were fighting. You were like, oh, do you know this person, this chef, and this chef, and this chef? And then I think at the second time he came by and sat with us, you had finally found your people that you overlapped with. But so did you figure it out like with the Venn diagram of Chicago chefs?
Yeah, I can't remember it. We had the cocktail that he served was like 3 alcohols mixed in one. It was,
these things were
boozy. That was a lot, we'd yeah. And Tom and his wife were so kind. They took me to one bar and then we left and then we went and we had some wine. And then Tom and his wife and we had to walk home.
Oh, Sarah got, we were at Rosemont and, we were sitting outside and a chef just comes up or, someone at the restaurant, someone eating on the way out just goes over and gives you a fist pump. And she's like, "Hey, love what you do. Love your stuff." And you were like, "Oh, yep. In the wild." She said, "Thank you for being educational in your videos. I love your work. And thanks for putting it out there." And you had to do the whole thing, which is coming back to Allison and I, and we're just sitting there like having a good time. And you're like, "Yeah, that happens. That happens from time to time. People spot me in the wild." So celebrity Sara, that was really cool.
Yeah. And I hate when people are like, "You must get so tired of this." Number one, if you ever say like you get tired of being recognized, either you're recognized way too much or you have a problem admitting like, I don't know. Yeah.
If you're on Instagram putting out videos and on Top Chef, of course there's an ego to how cool it is that you want to put yourself out there. You're proud of your work. Yeah.
No. And I like that people, it's nice when people are like, "Oh, that's so great. It's so educational," instead of people be like there are people out there on the internet, they are never going to be satisfied in their life. And it's like the only thing that satisfies them is to try to bring other people down. So I just try to go high.
That's what I loved about when the person came up to you is that she said, "Thank you for the educational part of it." When they get it, it. Like it's not just I'm having fun out here. I'm actually trying to teach you something about cooking, Yeah.
Okay. So I have to say, did we open with a question or did we forget?
Okra.
That's right. Okay. I couldn't remember. I was like, what did we talk about? It's okra. Yeah.
What did you want? What did you want to?
I wanted to know what your favorite side was. What's your favorite? In general, Thanksgiving meal or like Christmas meal or Hanukkah meal or whatever. What is the one side dish you're like, yes, it's coming?
Collard greens. I had it last night.
Really?
I love collard greens. The pork, the ham hock, the vinegar. I love collard greens. So, like if it's on a menu, I am ordering it 100 times. And it's not something I grew up with. I'm a white kid from Connecticut. It's not like we were always, I had just Kraft mac and cheese as a side all the time. So when I'm at a menu, it's one or two things. It's Brussels sprouts or it's collard greens. I'm a sucker for both of those things. And maybe I'm just like secretly, like my soul is just like deep South, Tom. Like that's just my spirit because I love those two sides and I will always order them at a restaurant. Also mushrooms too.
Oh yeah, I love mushrooms. So mine is funeral potatoes, which if you don't know what funeral potatoes are, they are like my husband. So I didn't grow up eating them, but my husband's grandmother, Mima, makes them. And they're these like cheesy hash brown casserole that's like covered in like buttered cornflakes. Oh my God. I think sometimes that's part of the reason I like fell in love with him is and then my father had never had them either. And then he ate them. And then we sat around this table, like eating them. Like they're so good. They're so good. I mean, their recipes in the cookbook, so you'll be able to make them. But I will say, it's funny that you said collard greens and that everybody here put meat in their collard and like pork in their collard greens. The collard greens we make at the restaurant. Have you had our collards before?
I don't know.
Have you ever had the pork
had
shoulder dish?
Yeah.
So it's the greens that are on the pork shoulder dish. So ours are vegan. We do a bunch of red onion, red chili flake. We like sweat it all out. We add the collards with a ton of red wine vinegar and brown sugar. We cook them just until they all change color is what we say essentially. They go from that bright green to that like brown green. We'll cook them in a huge pot. And once the whole entire pot has changed color and they're really good, we take them off and we leave them and let them come to room temperature like covered because it's just vegetables and water and sugar and vinegar. And that's how we serve them. We serve them. They're sweet and they're sour. They are so good and they're not mush. They're like, they don't taste bitter because we haven't just cooked them to death. So I wouldn't have put pork with my collards.
Ham hock.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to, now that you mentioned it, I'm going to have to go back to Freight House, which reminds me, well, before we talk about that, I want to say the smothered cabbage. Oh my God. That looks
good.
so good. Cabbage is also on the list of if it's on there, and I know I'm going to be. You're not going to want to be in the same room with me later that night, but cabbage is so good. Cabbage is unreal.
Creamy sauce and like it had like andouille or something all over it. It looked delicious.
Yeah. Greg, bring back Lee and Louise. I want to make it happen. I mean, it was such a great meal. So we kind of talked about it. Let's tease it. I know this is probably behind the scenes, but let's tease it a little bit. We want to do like a watch party for the season finale. So for the people listening, just know that we're trying to make it happen. Something fun like we did last year at El Mina in DC at Ajapong's restaurant. We want to do a watch party. We're kind of figuring out if it's Louisville or if it's at Freight House or where we want to go, but we want to do a watch party for this season. Maybe it's in Charlotte. We do a watch party here in Charlotte somewhere. So just block off your calendar for sometime in June. I want to say we don't know when the finale is, and maybe we can ask the folks if we can get like a general date. But Sarah, we've already got some ideas.
We do. We've got some good ideas. We've got some stuff in the works. But I'll tell you what I really want to hear, what I really want to know right now is what the scores are.
Oh, God.
Give me the scores. Come on, Tommy.
Did you see what Maze said in the chat? When I gave out the scoreboard.
So let me read it to you guys. So this is the pack your knives, the fork, the fork, spoon, plate. Maze says, he's telling us to I'm horrible with like technology stuff. So it's usually a fight to make my headphones and my microphone work, and he's telling Tom that he needs to wear headphones. And he's like, I've been getting a little feedback on your mic. And I said, I have also been getting feedback, but it's mostly about the blind draft and me whooping that ass. This is Tom. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I'm a little funny, but I'm also like, I am dominating this. But how were we supposed to know? I mean, we just blind drafted it. You give me the scores. What are they? Break it down. Oh, wait, doesn't Maze have more points than you right now?
That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's right. Maze has more points than me.
He had one person. He had the last pick.
So he doesn't have more. Okay. So just for the record, yeah, wait a minute. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. No. So it actually works out that I have 7 total points from start to finish. Okay. I have 7 total points. You have 95. Okay. So it's 95-7. All right. In the last 2 episodes, I've lost 7 points. This most recent one because Brittany was on my team. And then the previous episode, Nana was on my team. So that's a -10. In the first episode, it was like fairly even, like my team versus your team. I had 18 points in the first, 9 points in the second, but it's been a brutal round. You had the winner in every single elimination challenge. You had Rhoda, Lawrence, Seeger, and you also had Seeger in the Quickfire in this one. And you also had the Quickfire in the first 2 episodes, I want to say, because Lawrence won the first 2 Quickfires. And the only thing that I've won is Anthony in a Quickfire in the 3rd episode. Is the only thing I've won. And so Maze up like from 2nd episode on, he has more points than I do. But the entire thing is I'm still above water. I have 7 points and you have, oh God, no, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Let me just do this math right here. Yeah, you have 95 points and I have 7. Now, okay, so let's just do a power rankings of points.
It's close. I mean,
shut up. Shut up, Sarah. You don't have to patronize me, okay? I'm very upset. All right. So Lawrence has 25 in first. Rhoda has 21 in second. And then Anthony is in 3rd with 16. So you have all of your chefs left. But I have Anthony and Oscar and Dwen left. So you have all 6 of your chefs. Or 6, 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7. You have 7 chefs, Sarah. I have 3. Oh. And I've got Anthony who's 3rd. And I think he got the shaft on this one in this episode. I don't think he deserved to be in the bottom 3. So I think he's a close 3rd. no, maybe not a close third, but you clearly have Lawrence, Rhoda running the table here. And then Seeger, Brandon, Jonathan are also doing solid. And Sherry and Justin feel like they haven't had the best showing so far, but they're still in the competition. You know, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun everybody else.
Yeah. And you got Jennifer too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm worried she might go home because of the shoulder issue, you know?
Well, we see that early. We saw that early on. It's like Kristen's talking to Justin and she's crying. So he's crying or doesn't she say to him, she's like, you don't cry.
He's crying because he ran out of short shorts. That's not because of his wife. It's because
he has great legs. Those are like, yeah, they're great. They're great little legs.
It's a very Southern thing, which is interesting because he's a Michigan guy, right? I always feel like the short shorts you're going to find at a frat party in Alabama or Kentucky or Wake Forest. Like you're going to find the 5-inch short shorts, but man, she's cutting the jeans into short shorts. How about that? The jorts, which I only thought was a Kentucky thing, Sarah.
I don't know, but I'll say this. Do you remember when UK had the denim?
Yeah.
We were just talking about that. So if you notice, the scissors that she's using to cut his shorts, those are called joist chens. And if you need a good pair of kitchen shears, I suggest that every person has that pair of scissors. They can cut through lobster shell. They can do everything. They're so crazy sharp. And I actually cut myself. One of the worst cuts I've ever had was with a yellow pair of joist chen scissors. So when I see
a yellow pair,
the exact pair she's using, because you can get all kinds of different colors too, because everybody has them in a kitchen, like in a lot of really like in nice professional kitchens, everybody has a pair of joist chens. And so you get a different color, you carve it a certain way with your little knife. So you know which pair is yours. And I'm just like watching her cut that. And my heart was pounding. Like they're right by that artery, the one that they say you got to like cinch down. And
you know what I thought of, Sarah? Happening? You know what I thought of? You know what I just thought of?
Alone.
When the guy gets the arrow in his thigh and it almost hit the artery.
Yes. Hey, I would love to know if people on here watch Alone or watch Alone. If you could just let us know, because I have introduced Tom to Alone, which is a beloved show of my husband and I, Austin. And if you don't watch Alone and you need something when Top Chef isn't there, Alone is all about strategy, all about gameplay. I mean, I don't want to we don't have to talk about Alone, but if it fills my Top Chef void, that show. Yeah.
It is an awesome show. Awesome. Yeah. I watched it in like 2 days, start to finish. The season 11 that you got me on Netflix. So I think the only one that's on Netflix is season 11. And it was awesome. And Sarah was like, I know it sounds weird. It's not Naked and Afraid. It's not that, but it is a competition of who can last in the wilderness in some pretty gnarly conditions by themselves. And they set up their own camera crew. So they're their own camera crew. So it's just them alone, literally, for months in the Arctic. Yep. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my, I have to. And they kill moose and they look for bears and they snare rabbits and all this stuff. And you learn so much. But I'm in season 7 right now. I'm halfway through season 7.
There you go.
In the Arctic too. So it's a little bit different. But they did have a Kentucky guy there. So that was, I forget which town he's from, but there's a Kentucky guy. So Alone, pack your knives, endorsed. Alone.
It's such a good show. It's such a good show.
Sarah's now going to be, I think you're going to try to get all of your Top Chef friends to try to do Alone together. Who would win? All right, how about, that's fun. Who would win on Alone?
They had a culinary style Alone show where they like took chefs that were very good as like foragers and like wilderness people, and they like put them out there. I mean, it's a lot of what this show is just you have to be able to feed yourself. I love watching like how they're curing the meat, how do they preserve the fish to like lap. It's such a cool show. Yeah.
This guy just killed an ox and he's like, I got to get these intestines out of here just so that it doesn't poison the rest of or what was it? There's some reason why you got to get the guts out of a big ox like that
they're hot. It's hot inside. You got to get the meat cooled off as quickly as you can. Remember that one? I think it's like a Leonardo DiCaprio where doesn't he like cut an animal open and like sleep inside it because it's like warm in there? Yeah. I mean, I guess
it's
there's that too.
Maze is going to kill me.
It's the one he gets the back, the bear like destroys his back. right? Is
Yeah.
that it?
Yeah. And then he sleeps in it. Dude, this is great podcasting.
Well, I tell you what, while you're looking that up, I am going to give a very quick shout out, because I told them that if they were quiet
Revenant.
while I recorded, What is it?
Revenant.
Yeah. I told them if they were quiet while I recorded, I would do a little shout out. It's a 2026 spring break sleepover at Aunt Sassy's house. We've got Marlo, June, Hazel, and Lula. Shout out to you girls for being so awesome.
The silence is terrifying in our house. I'm like, what are they doing? What are those little devils doing? I'm going to go down there and it's just mad, just a madhouse. It's going to be crazy. I hope your kids are actually good silent people, because I get nervous when it's too quiet.
My sister's in there with them. She'd keep them in check. Yeah.
Shout out to the Cuzzos hanging out at Aunt Sassy's. Hey, so we're going to do Last Chance Kitchen next week. So we know that Nana and Brittany are going to be in Last Chance Kitchen, who we just hung out with this week. So full circle. So we'll do a recap of that next week, and we can break down all the fun dad jokes that Tom Colicchio does at Last Chance Kitchen, which is always a good time. So yeah, thanks everyone. Any last thoughts here before we go?
No, just
Next week, Savannah Miller on. So I spotted her in the Kindreds. So Joe and Katie Kindred of the Kindred restaurant group, Kindred up in Davidson, and Albertine's in Uptown Charlotte. Great Mediterranean restaurant that you've eaten at. Yeah.
Oh my God, that place is
Joe
amazing.
Kindred and Katie Kindred are from Charlotte, or they're born and raised here, and they're going to be on this episode. They're going to the Whitewater Center. So it's
nice.
Which I just went last week with my kids for the St. Patty's Green River, kind of like Chicago, where they paint the river green. I love the Whitewater. It's maybe my favorite thing in Charlotte. So they're gonna spotlight that next week, and we're gonna get Savannah Miller from Durham M Tempura, who was on Top Chef a few years ago. She's gonna be a guest judge along with the Kindreds. So I'm excited for next week.
Nice, I like it.
For Sarah Bradley, for Tom Habersher, this is Pack Your Knives.